Hello subscribers and channel members, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a suspiciously sunny day above the United Kingdom in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. In this video I want to talk about the next update that's coming out for Microsoft Flight Simulator on November the 11th and explain why, for me, it's probably going to fix what I think is one of Microsoft Flight Sim's biggest problems. And that problem is that Microsoft Flight Simulator, for me at least, doesn't really have any compelling gameplay to it. Now, before I get murdered by the Microsoft Flight Sim crew, Microsoft Flight Sim hardcore crew, the 80s rap band, they had some really big hits. Unfortunately, their lead singer died from an overdose. Before they attack me in the comments section, I know if you're playing this as a hardcore simulator, it's fantastic. You can make your own gameplay. I love Microsoft Flight Simulator. For me, it's really the sim to chill out on. I know you can get mods. I know it's got bush trips and stuff in it. But for me, with the aircraft that are in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it doesn't really offer any deep gameplay to it. Like, the challenge of flying the aircraft, for the most part, is not particularly engaging, and the metrics of if you're doing well or not well whilst flying are not obvious enough or set up in such a way where it's compelling for me from a gameplay perspective. As a simulator, it's fine, and that's what it is, but you know, yeah, when you can evaluate yourself with landing, you can get mods that add to this that tell you how well you landed and everything, speed and stuff, but when you're actually in the air flying with a propeller aircraft, really there's not much evaluation there. There's not that much to do. Bush trips a little bit, you know, there's a challenge there, working out where you are, adjusting things. If the weather's really bad, it's more of a challenge, landing and takeoff. But generally, flying with a propeller aircraft, by design, you know, aircraft are made to be as stable as possible and as easy to fly as possible. And most complexity from an aircraft, especially larger aircraft, really comes from making sure the systems are operating properly and moving an airborne cross-channel ferry through the air in a way that doesn't kill the passengers. It's mostly about being attentive rather than really mastering the manipulation of the aircraft. As a result, as I say, from a gameplay perspective, Microsoft Flight Simulator really fails to be that compelling for me. However, with the introduction of gliders, I think this really massively changes things for players that are also like me, that need something a bit engaging, something maybe a bit closer to what you kind of experience with racing simulators. Now, the reason why gliders really change things up is because if you remove the engine off an aircraft, you then really do have to pay a lot more attention to the elements of the environment that are going to allow you to stay airborne. Thermals, ridge lift, wave lift, the actual weather that's occurring at that point in time, the cloud formations and how that indicates what's going on with the thermals, and then also just the geography and the environment. All these things, and really paying attention to them, along with an altimeter, you know, the thing that beeps. I'm a pro glider pilot. All these things mean that in a glider, as opposed to a propeller-driven aircraft or jet engine-based aircraft, mean that you're constantly having to make adjustments to get the absolute most out of the aircraft to achieve the objective of getting to as high an altitude, or just to get to from one location to the other. It's so much more engaging and so much closer to the process that's involved, as I say, with racing a car. It's more of an act of balancing and responding to the physics engine, as opposed to going through a more binary sort of checklist procedural way of playing a video game. So gliders, within the context of a realistic simulator, are the closest thing to actually offering what I would call more traditional gameplay, or more sporty gameplay. I know some of you hardcore people will be like, well, again, landing and using stall aircraft and little bush trips, there are challenging components to all those, but I feel like what Microsoft Flight Simulator really dropped the ball on is actually evaluating you and offering structures to make up for the fact that in real life with a propeller-based aircraft, there's a risk to, well, first of all, there's an inherent cost to everything, so you want to get the most out of stuff. There's a wear and tear on the aircraft that really affects things. There's engaging with air traffic control and the other aircraft. I know you can use VATSIM and stuff, but there's so much stuff in real life that make it way more engaging and actually act as like a point metric system, an evaluation system, that just don't exist in Microsoft Flight Sim, which then I think really removes a lot of what makes real flying engaging in many ways, or doesn't translate well to a flight simulator. Fortunately though, with gliders, it fits within the context of what's available in Microsoft Flight Sim, in that, you know, the metric is, will you make it to that airport? Will you find the thermals and get the altitude? Are you at X altitude? Well, that means you've got the thermals better. You've evaluated the situation in front of you can visually see, and have you capitalised on that to get as much lift out of that situation as possible? So it becomes very satisfying and very immediate, even without a point system, as to if you're doing better or worse, and that to me makes it very engaging. Also in the next update, officially having helicopters from a purely basic flight perspective, especially smaller helicopters and older helicopters, are much more of a fun challenge to actually fly. I absolutely love helicopters. I love the dynamics of them. But I do feel, unfortunately, because there's not going to be, as far as I can tell, any real missions other than go to point A, point B, the helicopters will probably suffer from a similar problem that the normal aircraft in Microsoft Flight Sim suffer from, i.e. that lack of gameplay. I honestly don't understand why Microsoft Flight Simulator haven't made more of a thing, especially as the game's also on, it's a mass market game, it's a full-on sim, but it's also on console, and it's published by Microsoft. It should have something, doesn't even have to be as good as Euro Truck Simulator, but just, they've done it in the past with the old Microsoft Flight Sims. You know, with helicopters, you could have something like where you're picking people up, you're evaluated on how long it takes to get to a location, you're evaluated on how well you land, and then proper missions, proper evaluation. You've got to rescue someone from a fire, or you've got to rescue someone and then land it in a very precise way and you're scored. You know, all these things. I know you've got mods like Flight Sim Economy, but I feel if it's not official to the game, it kind of makes it feel a bit superficial and not as compelling. When something's part of the game, it's much easier to talk about it with your friends, and it's, you know, in the sense of, oh, I did this mission, this happened, oh, I did that as well, oh, how did it go, how well did you do, oh, that was fun. You know, it's more compelling to go through and complete it. It works better for streamers as well as having an actual thing to do. It's such a shame that Microsoft Flight Simulator just doesn't have anything like that within the sim out of the box. It's a real missed trick. I mean, my ultimate mode would be like a smuggling mode where you have to go to the jungle, pick up supplies, choose how much of the supplies you pick up, that weighs your aircraft down more or less, then you have to fly below under radar, and you might want to fly to another location, drop them off. In the process of flying there, you might get intercepted if you take a more risky route, but it might be a quicker route. If you've ever played the video game Dope Wars, that in Microsoft Flight Simulator would be unbelievable. I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that. You could do a more clean version. Anyway, massively missed potential. But the point is, gliders innately, I think, produce that deep gameplay. Very similar to if you're driving a racing simulator. You could take pretty much everything out of it. If you've just got a race car on a track, just trying to go quicker and do faster laps is actually quite compelling. Doing it with other people is even more fun. That's what, you know, doing it with other people is always more fun. But you know, also with the gliders, I think with it being in multiplayer, and it'd be really fun to do multiplayer glider flights, and the speed of them as well allows you to enjoy the graphics more, allows you to enjoy the geography more. Needless to say, all in all, I'm pretty hyped for the gliders, and I think it could be the best thing that's ever happened to Microsoft Flight Simulator for those type of people that want and are looking for gameplay, traditional gameplay, as opposed to get your cross-channel ferry to 20,000 foot and set the autopilot. Or just role... A lot of flight sim players are what I would describe as role-playing as much as they are actually flying, which is fine, but it's... I like to play games as they're presented to me, rather than forcing myself to generate my own gameplay. Though I do love Microsoft Flight Simulator as it is now. I do like it as a sim. It is great. But, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you as hyped for gliders as me? Do you think Microsoft Flight Simulator should have more gameplay? Of course you do. You can't disagree with what I say, because I know I'm right. I'm so modest. But let's land this. Until the next video, guys. I'm just going to land in this guy's field. I think this is Sheerness that we're landing on here. This is one of the most... this is one of the weirdest places in the UK. Everyone's got 3 legs and they talk funny. Yeah, until the next one, guys. Thank you very much for watching this. I really appreciate all the new subscribers recently. And... as I say, I really appreciate people clicking the like button and making this all possible for me. We are also on Twitch, actually, if you want to watch this live stream. I'll probably be doing some Microsoft Flight Sim over there on our insane sim rig at some point. But until the next one, guys, happy tea drinking, take care, goodbye.